Welcome to your personalized deep dive. You're interested in natural approaches to cancer, Red.
That's right.
So we're going to dive right into this book, Beating Cancer with Natural Medicine.
Okay.
And this book, it doesn't actually advocate for ditching conventional treatments.
Right.
It's all about integrating conventional and natural therapies together
Yeah.
for kind of like a really well-rounded approach.
Yeah, I like that.
And they actually make a bold claim right off the bat.
Oh,
They say cancer isn't just a localized thing, it's actually a systemic disease with a local manifestation.
yeah. It's a fascinating perspective.
Right.
And it really kind of challenges conventional thinking. I mean, the book argues that even if a tumor appears in a very specific spot, the underlying causes are rooted in the overall health of your body.
Yeah, it's like they're saying just treating the tumor is like,
Hmm.
pulling the top off of a weed
Exactly.
and not getting to the roots.
Yeah.
So what do they propose we do about those roots?
So they introduced this concept of biological terrain, which is basically like the environment inside your body.
Okay.
It's like, think of it like the soil in a garden.
Up.
If the soil is healthy and balanced, it's much harder for those weeds to take root.
Yeah.
But if it's depleted and out of whack,
Hmm.
well, the weeds can flourish.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So how do we go about creating that healthy soil to make it harder for cancer to take root in the first place?
Well, so the book outlines 7 key steps to beating cancer naturally.
Okay.
And these range from having a strong reason to fight to doing your homework on all your treatment options and making those big shifts in your diet,
Right.
taking the right nutritional supplements, balancing your internal terrain,
Uh-huh.
managing your toxic load, balancing your hormones, and even looking into some alternative therapies and building a good support system.
Wow. That's pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, it's a whole package.
It sounds like they're really covering all the bases. But, one thing that surprised me in the book was their take on some everyday things that could actually be risk factors for cancer.
Yes, and some of these are really counterintuitive.
Mm.
We all know about the usual suspects, things like smoking and excessive sun exposure.
Right.
But this book also points a finger at some things like EMFs from common appliances.
Really? Like EMFs emitted from like our cell phones or laptops or Wi-Fi routers?
Exactly. Even things like your microwaves and hair dryers.
Wow.
It's a controversial claim,
Right.
but it really makes you think twice, about this constant exposure to all these invisible forces.
Yeah, that's definitely something to think about. Okay, so another big idea that they dive into in the book is this whole concept of free radicals and antioxidants.
Yes.
And they seem to be big believers in the power of antioxidants to fight cancer.
Absolutely. They argue that high-dose antioxidant therapy is actually a cornerstone of natural cancer treatment.
Okay.
And the book explains, free radicals are these unstable molecules that can really damage our cells and potentially lead to cancer.
Uh-huh.
And while antioxidants act like these tiny warriors, they kind of neutralize those free radicals before they can cause too much trouble.
It's like this epic battle happening on a
Right.
microscopic level.
Exactly.
But I know there's been some debate about antioxidants, especially when it comes to like conventional treatments like chemo and radiation. Do they address that at all in the book?
They do,
Hmm.
and they don't shy away from the controversy.
Yeah.
The authors acknowledge that taking lower doses of antioxidants, right before, during, or after conventional treatments
Right.
might actually protect cancer cells
Yeah.
and make those treatments less effective.
Oh, so it's like giving the enemy a shield.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like you're helping them out.
We don't want to do that.
No.
Yeah.
But here's where it gets interesting. They argue that high doses of certain antioxidants used strategically could actually enhance the effectiveness of those treatments.
So it's all about like timing and dosage,
Precisely.
making sure that those antioxidants are working with the conventional treatments, not against them.
Exactly. And they get very specific about like the therapeutic dosages
Right.
of key antioxidants like vitamin C and E.
Mm-hmm.
And these are often much higher
Mm.
than, what you see like on the daily recommendations on supplement labels.
Right. And I know you always emphasize, working with a knowledgeable healthcare professional,
Absolutely.
especially when it comes to things like supplements.
Yeah.
Is that something they stress in the book as well?
They do. They make it very clear that high doses of anything, even vitamins, can have potential side effects.
Right.
So it's crucial to work with someone who understands these nuances
Yeah.
and can guide you on the right types and doses for you.
Okay, that makes total sense. Now let's move on to another key aspect of their approach,
Okay.
and that's boosting your immune system.
Uh-huh.
I know a lot of alternative therapies focus on, strengthening the body's natural defenses.
Right.
What's this book's take on that?
So they consider a robust immune system to be your front line of defense
Okay.
against cancer.
Yeah.
It's like having a well-trained army
Uh,
that's ready to fight off any invaders.
I like that.
And the book goes really deep into the roles of, these different immune cells, like the T cells and the B lymphocytes,
Uh-huh.
which are key players in this intricate defense system.
So T cells are kind of like the generals directing the attack.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And B lymphocytes are the specialized soldiers that produce the antibodies
Got it.
to target the threats.
Okay.
So, and what's really fascinating is the book's, exploration of various natural compounds and
Yeah.
therapies that can give your immune system a boost.
Okay, so give us an example. Like, what are some of the things they recommend?
Well, they talk about a lot of herbs and supplements, but a few that really stood out to me.
Mm-hmm.
One is cat's claw.
Cat's claw.
It's this intriguing herb from the Amazon rainforest.
Okay.
It has a long history of traditional use, for boosting immunity.
Yeah.
And there's some evidence to suggest it might have, anti-cancer properties as well.
Okay, so what makes it so special?
Well, some studies indicate that it can help stimulate the immune system and even inhibit the growth of certain cancer cells.
Wow, so it's kind of like a double whammy.
Yeah.
What other immune-boosting gems did they reveal?
Another one that I thought was really interesting was Essiac tea.
Okay.
It's this blend of herbs, burdock root, slippery elm sheep sorrel, and turkey rhubarb root.
Wow.
And, they're surrounded by all these anecdotal stories of people who have claimed that it's helped them with cancer.
Wow, a tea with that much history and folklore behind it, you gotta look into that a little bit more.
Right. And then there's medicinal mushrooms,
Right.
which have really gained popularity in recent years.
Yeah.
The book highlights mushrooms like maitake,
Uh-huh.
rishitake,
Yeah.
and shiitake,
Right.
which have been used for centuries in traditional medicine.
Yeah, I've definitely heard about the health benefits of mushrooms. What is it about them that makes them so powerful?
So they contain these unique compounds, including something called beta-glucans,
Okay.
which are believed to have these immune-boosting and anti-tumor properties.
So it's like they're giving our immune systems like a little extra firepower.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, I'm starting to see a pattern here. This book is all about supporting the body's natural defenses on multiple fronts.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And that actually leads us to another really crucial aspect
Okay.
that the book addresses, which is stopping cancer from spreading.
Okay, so now we're getting into like the really scary stuff.
Yeah.
How does the book tackle this challenge?
So they break down cancer growth into 3 distinct phases.
Okay.
Initiation,
Uh-huh.
promotion,
Okay.
and progression.
Okay.
So initiation is when a cell's DNA gets damaged, maybe due to toxins, radiation,
Right.
things like that.
Okay.
Promotion is when that damaged cell starts multiplying out of control.
Right.
And progression is when those cancer cells invade nearby tissues and potentially spread to other parts of the body.
So it's like this domino effect.
Yeah.
And they claim that there are natural compounds that can interfere with this process.
That's right. They present this whole arsenal of natural substances that they believe can inhibit that spread.
Okay.
And some of them are pretty well known, like calcium D-glucarate,
Okay.
which helps with detoxification and might reduce the risk of hormone-related cancers.
Okay. And I've also heard about curcumin.
Yes.
You know, that potent anti-inflammatory compound found in turmeric?
Right.
It seems like curcumin is being studied for everything these days.
I know it really is.
Yeah.
And then there's resveratrol,
Okay.
the compound found in red wine and grapes
Right.
that's been linked to all these different health benefits,
Yeah.
including, potential anti-cancer effects. The book suggests that it can actually inhibit all 3 phases of cancer growth.
Wow. So it's like a triple threat.
It is.
But some of the other compounds they mention are pretty surprising. I mean, shark and bovine cartilage.
I know, right? It sounds a little out there.
Yeah.
But they argue that these cartilages contain substances that can inhibit angiogenesis.
Angiogenesis, remind me what that is again?
Yeah, so it's the process of new blood vessels forming.
Right.
And it's a crucial process for tumor growth because tumors need a blood supply
Right.
to grow and spread.
So by inhibiting angiogenesis, you're essentially cutting off the tumor's lifeline.
You got it. You're starving it of the nutrients and oxygen it needs to thrive.
That's a pretty ingenious strategy.
It is.
And I have to admit, I was really intrigued by them mentioning bindweed.
Yes.
You mean that common weed that pops up everywhere?
That's the one. It's fascinating how something that we usually try to eradicate
Great.
might actually hold potential anti-cancer properties.
Nature is full of surprises.
It really is.
And then there's artemisinin.
Yes.
I know that's used to treat malaria, but they suggest it might have a role in cancer therapy as well.
Is right. They discuss how artemisinin interacts with iron, which is something that cancer cells need to grow.
Right.
So it's a complex mechanism.
Yeah.
But it's another example of how researchers are exploring, the potential of these existing drugs for new applications.
It's really interesting to see how all this research is evolving and how we're learning more and more about the potential of natural substances.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so another key concept the book emphasizes is this idea of balancing the internal terrain. Can you break that down for us?
So it's all about creating this environment within your body that's inhospitable to cancer.
Okay.
So they talk a lot about pH balance.
Right.
And specifically how an acidic environment can actually create really favorable conditions for cancer cells to thrive.
Oh, so it's like making your body a hostile environment
Exactly.
to those unwanted invaders.
Yeah, you want to make it really uncomfortable for them to hang out.
For them to set up shop. Yeah.
And the book outlines these 4 key pillars for achieving that balance.
Okay, so what are those 4 pillars?
So first, they emphasize digestive enzymes,
Okay.
which are those little workhorses that help break down food and absorb nutrients.
Right.
And if you're not digesting properly, it can lead to this more acidic environment in your gut.
Okay.
And then there's probiotics,
Right.
those beneficial bacteria that keep our gut healthy and happy.
Uh-huh.
They also stress the importance of green foods,
Okay.
things like leafy greens,
Right.
superfood powders.
Which are packed with alkalizing nutrients.
Exactly.
Oh,
And
oh.
finally, they emphasize the role of fiber,
Right.
which helps to keep things moving smoothly
Yeah.
through your digestive system,
Yeah.
preventing that buildup of waste and toxins.
Got it. So it's all about supporting healthy digestion
Yes.
and maintaining that slightly alkaline environment in
Right.
the body.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, the book also touches on the Gerson therapy, right?
It does.
Which I've heard about, but I don't know a ton about.
Yeah. It's a very well-known detoxification program that was designed for cancer patients.
Okay.
And it incorporates a lot of these principles that we've been talking about.
Got it. So speaking of detoxification,
Yes.
let's move on to that topic.
Okay.
Because the book dedicates a whole section to unloading toxins.
Yes.
What's their take on the connection between toxins and cancer?
Well, so they define toxins pretty broadly.
Yeah.
It's not just about those obvious things like, the heavy metals,
Right.
environmental pollutants,
Right.
but it's also about the byproducts of our own metabolism,
Okay.
things that build up over time and stress our systems.
So even if we're living a relatively healthy lifestyle, we're still exposed to these toxins every day.
Exactly. And that's why they dedicate so much space to discussing how to detoxify the body.
Okay.
And they actually outline a very comprehensive program
Okay.
that involves these 3 phases: cleansing, rebuilding,
Okay.
and maintenance.
Okay, so let's break that down. What does the cleansing phase look like?
They recommend several different strategies, including fasting,
Okay.
juicing,
Uh-huh.
skin cleansing,
Okay.
colon cleansing,
Right.
and even, toxic metal cleansing,
Okay.
using a process called chelation therapy.
Wow, that sounds pretty intense. I'm guessing they emphasize the importance of, professional guidance.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to that part of the program.
They do.
Okay.
They make it very clear that detoxification should be done safely and under the supervision of a qualified healthcare professional.
Of course. So after the cleansing phase, there's the rebuilding phase, right?
Yeah.
What does that involve?
So this phase focuses on nourishing the body with those nutrient-rich foods to support the organs that are involved in detoxification. So we're talking about the liver, the kidneys, the lymphatic system.
So it's not just about getting rid of the bad stuff.
Yeah.
It's about replenishing the good stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got to nourish those organs,
Right.
help them recover.
So they can do their job.
Exactly. And then there's the maintenance phase,
Right.
which is all about adopting a long-term lifestyle
Right.
that supports that ongoing detoxification.
Okay.
So this could involve things like drinking plenty of water,
Mm-hmm.
eating a clean diet,
Right.
managing stress,
Okay.
and even incorporating, certain cleansing herbal teas
Yeah.
into your routine.
So it's like giving your body a regular detox tune-up.
Exactly.
Now let's talk about food, because they delve deep into this whole concept of an anti-cancer diet.
Yes, they do.
What are the key takeaways there?
So they lay out some pretty specific guidelines.
Okay.
But one thing that really stands out to me is their emphasis on choosing organic whole foods
Right.
whenever possible.
So minimizing exposure to pesticides and herbicides.
Exactly. All those things
And hormones.
that can really disrupt the body's natural balance.
Okay, so it's not just about the type of food, but also the quality and how it's sourced. And what about sugar? I know that's a hot topic these days.
Sugar is a big no-no.
Okay.
They're very clear about their stance on sugar. They see it as a major culprit in creating an unhealthy internal environment. They say cancer cells thrive on sugar.
It's like feeding the enemy.
It is.
Okay, so the anti-cancer diet is all about cutting back on sugar, focusing on fresh whole foods, and incorporating those healthy fats.
Exactly. But they also provide some really interesting insights into specific foods and their potential benefits.
Okay, like what?
So, for example, they really caution against consuming red meat.
Okay.
They argue that it can promote inflammation
Oh,
and create a more acidic environment in the body.
that's interesting because a lot of people think of meat as this, good source of protein,
Right.
which is important for healing.
Yeah, and they do acknowledge the importance of protein,
Okay.
but they encourage getting it from more plant-based sources like beans, lentils,
Okay.
nuts, and seeds.
Uh-huh.
They even suggest limiting poultry intake because conventionally raised chicken can contain hormones and antibiotics.
So it's not just about what we eat, but where it comes from.
Exactly.
How it's raised.
It's that whole bigger picture.
What about dairy?
So they recommend limiting dairy intake, particularly conventional dairy products
Okay.
that may contain hormones and antibiotics.
Okay.
They do make an exception for some fermented dairy products,
Okay.
particularly those that are organic and contain those live cultures like yogurt,
Okay.
because those can be beneficial for gut health.
Okay. So they are fans of fermented foods.
Yes. Okay.
But overall,
Yeah.
they really seem to be big proponents of a more plant-based approach.
Got it. So lots of fruits, veggies,
Yes.
whole grains,
Uh-huh.
plant-based proteins.
Exactly.
What about beverages? What do they say about things like coffee, tea, alcohol?
So they suggest limiting coffee because of its stimulating effects.
Okay.
And, it can disrupt sleep patterns.
Right. Which are crucial for overall health and healing.
Right. What about tea?
So they recommend choosing herbal teas over caffeinated teas,
Okay.
as caffeine can be dehydrating
Right.
and stimulating.
Got it. And alcohol.
Alcohol is a no-no.
Okay.
They suggest avoiding it altogether or
Yeah.
limiting it significantly
Makes sense.
because it can be toxic to the liver,
Right.
which is your main detoxification organ,
Right.
and can disrupt hormone balance.
So water is the beverage of choice for an anti-cancer lifestyle.
Pretty much.
It sounds like their approach to diet is really about making these conscious choices that support the body's natural healing mechanisms.
Exactly.
And that attention to detail is actually evident throughout the book. They even provide specific instructions for how to prepare food to maximize nutrient retention.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
They really think about everything.
Like what? Give us an example.
For example, they recommend eating plenty of raw fruits and vegetables
Okay.
because cooking can destroy some nutrients. And they also suggest, lightly steaming or stir-frying veggies rather than boiling them,
Okay.
because boiling can leach those nutrients into the water.
Right.
And they emphasize the importance of chewing food thoroughly
Mm-hmm.
to aid digestion.
It's amazing how much we take those everyday acts for granted.
I know, right? It all makes sense.
All those little things add up.
It does.
Yeah, okay. Now, and that reminds me of another fascinating thing that they discuss, and that is laetrile.
Yes, laetrile.
Now, laetrile, that's the compound found in apricot pits, right?
That's right. Also known as amygdalin.
Okay. I've heard it touted as a cancer cure,
Yeah,
but I also know it's been pretty controversial.
it is a controversial one.
So what do they have to say about it?
So they present it as a potentially beneficial substance
Okay.
that might work by releasing cyanide in the body,
Okay.
which could selectively target cancer cells.
Oh, so it's like this poison that specifically attacks the bad guys.
That's the theory.
Okay.
But they also acknowledge that there's very limited scientific evidence to actually support its effectiveness.
Okay.
And it's actually been banned as a cancer treatment in many countries.
Right. So it's one of those gray areas where more research is needed
Yes, definitely.
to fully understand its potential.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's a good example of how this book doesn't shy away
Right.
from the complexities and the controversies
Yeah.
surrounding natural approaches to cancer.
Right. They want people to, you know, think critically,
Yeah,
do their own research,
right.
work with qualified healthcare professionals
Right.
to make informed decisions.
It's not about blindly following some set of rules. It's
Right.
about understanding the principles and how they can be integrated into
Yeah.
a comprehensive treatment strategy.
It's about empowering yourself to be an active participant
Yeah,
in your own healing.
I love that. It's about becoming an empowered patient rather than a
Yeah.
passive recipient of treatment.
So-
Okay, so now I want to shift gears a bit
Yeah.
and dive into the book's discussion of specific nutrients and supplements
Okay.
that they believe might be helpful for cancer patients.
Right.
What are some of the key ones that they highlight?
So they go beyond, recommending a daily multivitamin.
Right.
They talk about using therapeutic doses of certain nutrients, often in combination with other natural therapies.
Okay, so let's start with vitamin C. We've already talked about it a little bit in terms of its antioxidant properties,
Uh-huh.
but I'm curious if they mentioned any other potential benefits.
They highlight some really intriguing research suggesting that high doses of vitamin C might have anti-cancer properties, possibly by boosting the immune system and interfering with cancer cell growth.
Okay.
They even discuss intravenous vitamin C therapy
Wow.
as a potential treatment option.
Intravenous vitamin C therapy. What's the reasoning behind that?
So the idea is that by delivering vitamin C directly into the bloodstream,
Yeah.
you can achieve much higher concentrations in the body
Right.
than you could by taking oral supplements.
Oh, so it's like giving your body a mega dose of vitamin C.
Exactly.
Okay.
What about vitamin E?
Yeah, they mentioned that one as well.
They do.
Okay.
They talk about it as another potent antioxidant
Right.
and highlight research suggesting that it might help protect cells from damage
Uh-huh.
and potentially reduce the risk of certain cancers.
Okay, so vitamins C and E are definitely on the list.
Yes.
What about minerals? Are there any specific minerals that they emphasize?
One that stood out to me was selenium.
Selenium? Okay.
And they explained that selenium is essential for proper functioning of the immune system
Right.
and may help protect against cancer by neutralizing free radicals
Uh-huh.
and supporting DNA repair. They also mentioned zinc,
Okay.
which is important for immune function and cell growth.
So it's not just about vitamins, but also making sure we're getting enough of these essential minerals.
Exactly.
Now, I know they're big on boosting immunity.
Yeah. Are there any specific herbs or botanicals that they recommend for that?
They mention quite a few,
Okay.
and some of them are fascinating.
Yeah.
One is astragalus.
Okay.
It's an herb traditionally used in Chinese medicine
Right.
to strengthen the immune system.
Uh-huh.
It's believed to work by stimulating the production of white blood cells,
Right.
which are, your body's frontline defenders.
So it's like a general rallying the troops.
Exactly.
What other immune-boosting herbs do they suggest?
Another one that caught my eye was echinacea,
Echinacea.
which is a very popular remedy for colds and flu.
Right.
But the book explains that it may also have anti-cancer properties,
Okay.
possibly by stimulating the immune system and directly inhibiting cancer cell growth.
Echinacea, I always have that on hand during cold and flu season.
That's a good one to have.
Yeah. So it's not just about preventing those everyday sniffles, but potentially something much more serious.
Yeah, well,
What other herbs were on their list?
one that stood out was milk thistle. Milk thistle.
Okay. Which is traditionally used to support liver health.
Okay.
And it contains a compound called silymarin,
Uh-huh.
which is a powerful antioxidant that might protect the liver from damage
Right.
and support detoxification.
Okay, so milk thistle is a good one.
Yeah.
And they also mentioned garlic, right?
Oh, yeah, of course. Garlic.
Which we all know and love.
Yes, it's known for its immune-boosting properties.
Right.
And may have some anti-cancer effects as well.
Garlic. I use that in my cooking all the time.
It's a good one.
Yeah. It's amazing how many of these everyday foods
I know, right?
have these hidden healing properties.
It really is.
Okay. And then there's cat's claw, which we talked about earlier.
Yes.
You know that vine from the Amazon rainforest?
Right.
And it's traditionally used to treat a variety of ailments.
Yes.
And they suggest it might have anti-cancer effects by boosting the immune system and inhibiting angiogenesis.
That's right.
Wow. So cat's claw is kind of a multitasker,
It is.
fighting cancer on multiple fronts. What about medicinal mushrooms? Those seem to be all the rage these days.
They are. They're having a moment.
They are.
The book highlights several varieties,
Okay.
including rishime-take and shiitake.
Okay. And what makes these mushrooms so special?
Well, they contain a variety of compounds,
Okay.
including these polysaccharides and beta-glucans that are believed to have immune-boosting and anti-cancer properties.
Okay.
Some studies suggest that they may help enhance the effectiveness of conventional cancer treatments,
Right.
while others indicate they might even have direct anti-tumor effects.
Wow. Mushrooms are like tiny little powerhouses.
They are.
But they emphasize the importance of choosing high-quality mushroom extracts, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
They point out that the potency can vary,
Right.
depending on the species, the growing conditions, the extraction methods.
So it's not as simple as just grabbing any mushroom supplement off the shelf.
No, definitely not.
Okay, good to know. Now, another thing that caught my eye was their...
Another thing that caught my eye was their discussion of enzymes. What to do with enzymes in cancer?
Well, enzymes are essential for so many processes in our bodies, right? Like digestion, detoxification, immune function.
They do it all.
So do they suggest that supplementing with certain enzymes might be helpful for people who have cancer?
They do, especially proteolytic enzymes.
Proteolytic enzymes, those are the ones that help break down protein, right?
That's it. And the book explains that some cancer cells have this protective protein coating that makes them harder for the body to fight off.
Interesting. So those proteolytic enzymes can help break down that protein coating. Is that the idea?
Exactly. It's like taking away the enemy's shield, making them more vulnerable to the immune system.
I like that. It's like disarming them. Okay, we can't talk about health without mentioning the gut microbiome. There's been so much research lately about how gut health affects our overall well-being. Does this book touch on that at all?
Oh, they definitely emphasize the importance of a healthy gut microbiome. I mean, think about it. Trillions of bacteria live in our gut, and they play a crucial role in everything from digestion to immunity.
It's wild to think about that whole world living inside of us. So what are their recommendations for supporting all those beneficial bacteria?
They're big fans of both probiotics and prebiotics.
Okay, so probiotics are the actual good bacteria, and prebiotics are the food that helps those good bacteria thrive.
You got it. Probiotics are like the seeds, and prebiotics are the fertilizer.
I love these analogies. It makes it so much easier to understand. And what are some good sources of those?
Well, they're big proponents of fermented foods. Things like yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi.
Yum, kimchi. I love that stuff. So those are good ways to get probiotics in our diet. What about prebiotics? Where do we find those?
Lots of fruits, vegetables, and whole grains have prebiotics. There are types of fiber that our bodies can't digest, but those good gut bacteria love them.
So it's like feeding the good guys. It's a win-win.
It seems like they're really advocating for this comprehensive approach to cancer. It's not just about attacking the cancer itself, but about creating a healthy environment where those cancer cells are less likely to thrive in the first place.
Exactly. And they go beyond just diet and supplements, too. They dive into a whole world of other natural therapies.
Okay, like what? I'm curious to hear about some of the more unconventional therapies they explore.
Well, one that caught my attention was ozone therapy.
Ozone therapy. I haven't heard much about that one. Isn't ozone that stuff in the atmosphere? The stuff that protects us from the sun's harmful rays?
That's right. But ozone can also be used medically.
Really? So how does that work?
It's actually pretty fascinating. Ozone is this highly reactive form of oxygen, and it can be introduced into the body in a few different ways. Like they talk about intravenous infusions and even rectal insufflations.
Okay, rectal insufflations. That doesn't sound like the most enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
I know, right? But they suggest it can be pretty effective. The idea is that ozone helps oxygenate the body, stimulates the immune system, and might even directly kill some of those cancer cells.
So there's an internal oxygen boost. That's pretty cool. What other therapies do they talk about?
They also discuss ultraviolet blood irradiation, or UBI. Remember we touched on that one earlier?
Right. That's where they take a small amount of blood, expose it to ultraviolet light, and then put it back in. So what does that UV light actually do?
They explain that it might help stimulate the immune system and kill pathogens in the blood, things like viruses, bacteria, and possibly even cancer cells.
So it's like giving your blood a little cleansing treatment. What else?
Another one they mention is hyperbaric oxygen therapy, or HBOT.
Okay, I've actually heard of HBOT. That's where you sit in a pressurized chamber and breathe pure oxygen, right?
Exactly. And they explain that HBOT increases the amount of oxygen in the blood, which can help with healing, reduce inflammation, and, like some of these other therapies, might even have an effect on those cancer cells directly.
So it's like a supercharged oxygen boost for the whole body. These therapies are pretty out there. Are they considered mainstream?
Not really. While they have their proponents, a lot of these therapies are still considered alternative or complementary. They haven't been studied as much as conventional treatments, and they're not always accepted by the mainstream medical community.
So it's important to be cautious and do your research, especially when it comes to something as serious as cancer. Talk to your doctor, get different opinions. Don't just jump into any therapy without understanding the potential risks and benefits.
Absolutely. You have to be an informed patient and make decisions that feel right for you.
Now, it seems like this book is really advocating for a holistic approach to cancer treatment, looking at the whole picture and not just focusing on the cancer itself.
Absolutely. They emphasize creating an environment within the body that supports overall health and well-being, making it harder for those cancer cells to thrive. And that includes addressing the physical, emotional, mental, and even spiritual aspects of healing.
I think that's so important. Cancer isn't just a physical disease, it affects people on so many levels. True healing needs to address all those layers, not just the physical symptoms.
Exactly. It's about embracing a holistic approach to health and well-being.
Now, before we move on, I'm curious, if you had to sum up the book's main message in one sentence, what would it be?
I think their most important message is that we are not powerless when it comes to cancer. We have more control over our health than we often think.
I love that. It's about empowerment, about taking back control and recognizing that we can do things to support our body's natural healing abilities.
Exactly. It's about seeing ourselves as active participants in our healing journey, not just passive recipients of treatment.
And this book provides so many tools and strategies to help us do that.
Right, and it's not just about fighting the cancer. It's about creating the optimal conditions for our bodies to heal and thrive. And that involves so many different factors: what we eat, how we manage stress, the kind of thoughts we think, even our connections with others.
Now, before we wrap up our exploration of this book, is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners? Any final thoughts or advice?
One thing I want to emphasize is that this book is just one perspective. It's important to do your own research, talk to different healthcare professionals, and figure out what resonates with you, what feels right for you and your unique needs.
That's such important advice. There's so much information out there, and it can be overwhelming. It's about becoming an informed patient, understanding the different options, and making choices that align with your own values and beliefs.
Exactly. It's your health, your body, and your journey.
Now, as we wrap up this part, is there a question you'd like to leave our listeners with? Something to ponder as they continue to explore these ideas?
Here's a thought-provoking one. If our bodies truly have this innate capacity for healing, how can we create the best possible environment for that healing to happen? What can we do, both internally and externally, to support our body's natural healing abilities?
That's a great question to consider. It really gets you thinking about the bigger picture of health and well-being. It's not just about fighting disease, but about fostering vitality and resilience. It really makes you think about all the different factors that come into play when it comes to healing.
Yeah. And that actually leads us to another fascinating part of this book,
Okay.
their exploration of other natural therapies that go beyond just diet and supplements.
Yeah, we touched on a few of those earlier, like hyperthermia
Yeah.
and bioresonance. But I'm really curious to hear more about some of these other unconventional therapies they talk about.
Yeah.
What stood out to you?
Well, one that I found really intriguing was ozone therapy.
Ozone therapy. Okay, I haven't heard a ton about that one. Ozone is that stuff in the atmosphere, right, that protects us from the sun's harmful rays.
That's the one, but ozone can also be used medically
Oh, wow.
in a variety of ways.
How does that work?
So ozone is a highly reactive form of oxygen, and the book explains that it can be introduced into the body through various methods,
Okay.
like intravenous infusions or even rectal insufflations.
Rectal insufflations. Okay, that sounds a little intense.
I know, right? Not the most glamorous therapy,
Yeah.
but they suggest that it can be quite effective. The idea is that ozone can help oxygenate the body, stimulate the immune system, and even kill cancer cells.
So it's almost like giving your body a boost of oxygen from the inside out.
Exactly.
Okay, what other therapies do they explore?
They also talk about ultraviolet blood irradiation, or UBI.
Right, and we talked about that one briefly before.
Which is
Where they draw a small amount of blood, expose it to ultraviolet light, and then put it back into the body.
Yeah, that's it.
So what's that UV light supposed to do?
So they explain that it might help stimulate the immune system and kill pathogens in the blood, including viruses, bacteria, and even cancer cells.
It's fascinating to think that something as simple as light can have such a profound effect on our health.
It really is.
Okay, what else is on our list?
Another one they mentioned is hyperbaric oxygen therapy,
Okay, I've heard of that one.
or HBOT.
And that's where you sit in like a pressurized chamber and you breathe in pure oxygen, right?
That's it.
Okay.
And the book explains that HBOT can dramatically increase the amount of oxygen in your blood,
Right.
which can enhance healing, reduce inflammation,
Right.
and even kill cancer cells.
So it's like giving your body this intense oxygen bath.
Exactly.
It seems like a lot of these therapies are based on the idea that cancer cells thrive in low oxygen environments.
Right.
So by flooding the body with oxygen, you can
Mhm.
kind of create this less hospitable environment for them.
You got it.
Are these therapies considered mainstream or are they more on the fringe?
So a lot of these are still considered alternative or complementary.
Okay.
So they haven't necessarily been rigorously studied
Right.
or widely accepted by the conventional medical community.
So it's important to do your research and approach them with caution, especially when dealing with a serious condition like cancer.
Exactly.
All right. So as we wrap up our deep dive into this book, what is the one message you hope our listeners will take away from it?
I think the most important message is that we have so much more power over our health than we often realize.
I love that. It's about taking back control and recognizing that we do have the ability to influence our health and well-being.
Exactly. It's about seeing ourselves as active participants in our own healing journey, not passive recipients of treatment.
And this book has given us so many tools and strategies
Hmm.
to do just that.
Yeah,
It's really about embracing that holistic approach, right? Addressing all those different layers that contribute to health and healing the physical, the emotional, the mental, the spiritual.
I agree.
It's about seeing that interconnectedness of it all. And, true healing goes far beyond simply treating symptoms.
It does.
It's really about creating an environment where our bodies can thrive.
Exactly.
Well, this book has been a wonderful resource for anyone facing cancer or anyone who wants to learn more about how to support their body's natural healing abilities.
It really is.
And remember, this was your personalized deep dive designed specifically for you and your interests. We hope you found it insightful and empowering, and we encourage you to keep learning, keep asking questions, and keep exploring these ideas. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.